Alright, so education's always good. I like to take a minute every time I get the chance to take a minute and, like, you know, help people to understand things. And it's not because people are stupid, it's because people don't think and they don't know. So I like to show things when things happen that I can take advantage of, not because I'm trying to ridicule someone, but because I'm trying to help someone. Because, you know, if the person happens to see this and they'll think differently about things, which is fine as long as they don't get upset and get their feelings hurt. That's fine. They just, you know, it's all about just education and showing you things that people just don't think about and don't understand. So, what I'm rolling around in my hand right here is a bolt from a piece of lawn furniture that supports the whole seat. Like the seat's bolted to springs, and then the springs are bolted to a bar, and the bar is bolted to the seat bottom with these bolts. Now, shame on the manufacturer for not using a high-grade bolt that has a great shear strength and is a good hard bolt. Like so on the back of the bolts, generally speaking, this one has no marks on it at all, so it's a really low-grade bolt, meaning like it's just kind of trash. So typically your bolts will be marked at the points with a grading mark on them. There's typically little tick marks on there that will tell you grade 5, grade 8, whatever it is anyway. So this piece failed, not because of manufacturer defects, because there was some, you know, because these bolts aren't very structurally safe. Like, I'll show you where they're at right here. I'll show you real quick. All right, this is where the bolts are right here. This is the bolt that came out. So this seat is attached to this spring, which is attached to this bar. Okay, this is all supported here and here and here and here. And then this, everything is supported right here by these two. This is the whole support system, minus the shaft. These two bolts support everything. So they should have been stronger bolts, but they stretched over time because they're weak steel. They're not a good quality hard bolt that's not going to pull and stretch. So when they're put together, okay, the steel gets hot, all right? So then it's already a bit compromised from the heat. And then they go through the summer and winter, and people sitting in them and, you know, laying back because they're reclining type of chairs. So all of that, again, is supported. You know, when that thing pivots back, it's supported by this and this, you know, and you can't spin this around. It's designed that way for this to be a focal point, but this is still your main support. This right here is still your main support. So this thing got stretched out, and then over time it sits there, and then it stretches out more and more and more, and it wears a lock washer, and I call them capture nuts. I don't know what the real technical term of them is, but they have a nylon insert. You can see it right there around the edge of it. All the way around. It's a nylon insert, and what happens is when you thread this down, and you can't thread this past the point of the threads. Once you hit that nylon insert, you have to use a tool. You cannot do that by hand. So as you're turning that down, this bolt gets hot, the nylon gets hot, and then the lock washer locks down, and it locks it all into place. So the looseness comes from the stretch, not from the actual nut coming loose. So the bolt has been stretched out, because this nut will not ever come loose. It will not ever come loose because of that nylon in there. It glues that thing. It's kind of like Loctite. It glues that into place. Plus you have the lock washer that's all snapped down, holding it in snug into place. So the bolt stretched out. Somebody came in and tightened them up, and now they're all starting to pop, because what happened is that nothing turned up here or down here, it turned inside of the nut and it spun differently, because remember, this is all glued in by the nylon, and the brake is right at the bottom of the nylon, right at the bottom of the threads. So this piece just spun. It didn't actually tighten anything down. So anyway, we're gonna go get some grade 8 bolts and put in there. That way, I fixed one out front, and they're always worried about it, but I put a 1/2-inch bolt down in it, and it's like as big as my thumb. Man, you could pull 2 trucks with that thing. It ain't gonna break ever. Way better than the factory stuff. But yeah, we're gonna go get some grade 8 bolts. They're a little bit more expensive, but because you only have that little bit, it's only like 1.5-inch bolt, maybe 1 3/4. You only have that little bit in there, and that's the whole support system for the chair. Should be a good quality bolt. We'll go back with capture nuts, so that way they don't come loose. And then once they're tightened down with a good quality bolt that doesn't stretch, never have a problem with them. That wasn't a fart, that was a mouth noise. Anyway, there you go. Just a little bit of education for you on bolts and stuff. You know, if you're using structural things for bolts, use good bolts. Spend an extra $1, spend an extra 75 cents and get good quality bolts. They might be $2 now, whatever. But, you know, I actually fell because one of these bolts broke and hit the concrete down below me. I was just leaned back in the chair and then snap, bam, there I am on the ground. So you imagine if that happened to your grandma, you'd probably feel bad. But it wouldn't be your fault, you know, just because people don't think, they don't do, you know, they don't do this kind of stuff, so they're not thinking about things like that. But, you know, we do. So get good bolts, because this is not a quality bolt for a structural system. And, you know, I mean, that's only 1 3/4 inches wide, and this is 3/4 of an inch. So that's not a very big structural area to be supporting whatever weight is put in this chair. Anyway, that's about bolts and nuts and things like that, and just some information. So, you know, remember the capture nuts won't come loose. The bolts stretch out. And if you're having to tighten something that's got a capture nut on it, it's time to replace the bolt because it's going to snap. So, there you go.